So one of the more confusing events and input types to access are checkboxes. What's unique about these guys, and I'll go ahead and save this and preview it in a browser. Let me go to my desktop, and we'll call this checkboxes HTML. But one of the things that is neat about this is you can do multiple selects. So you may have already known that, but that brings up a new complication. And what that means is that JavaScript will treat this as a list of items. So let's say we had an event. And generally with a checkbox, you rarely will get the checkbox that has the onClick attached to it. The only time I really see that is something like the authorization of a page, whether it's checked or not. But let's say it's something like this where we have a group of checkboxes. And I have an input type like a button. That would be the driver of this. And the value could be something like show sports, something like that, no big deal. Well, when we evaluate what events to handle, we have to think about our user and what these checkboxes' intentions are. And they're about communicating all the favorite sports that this person selects. So when I do this and this, I need to click that button and hopefully it'll show all my sports. So let me have a span ID and I'll make this response so it's consistent with the rest of the course materials. So our intention here is to create a function. We can call it show sports, keep it consistent, and simply display all of the checkboxes that are checked. So here's my event. OnClick equals show sports. Now, the logic here is going to take a while to understand, but you have to think to yourself, do I need to pass an argument here? And we really don't when we're traversing through the document object model. Because if I were to console.log, and notice how there's no ID here. If I were to log this element, I should see all of the checkboxes. But I don't have really an ID. With a list of checkboxes like this, it's better to have a form. Something like a form name, and we can call this sports. And then we'll close the form element here. Okay, so now I have a form and I have a checkbox. So if I were to log document, the entire document, and then the form name, sports, and notice how the name is the same as the name here. Let's call this sports form. And then we'll just log that right now, just so we can see what happens, okay? So I'm going to make this large. I'm going to open up my developer tools, and we'll have a little fun. So basically, I'm going to click Show Sports. Well, right now, if you look, I have OnClick Show Sports, OnClick Show Sports. Well, we don't have anything in the console, do we? Let's go ahead and hit refresh and do Show Sports. Now we have it. So by doing console.log document.sportsForm, we get the entire form. Look at that. Okay, so we need to get more specific, don't we? So let's do .sports. And now when I hit refresh and I click the button, I get 4 input types. This is what I see, and these are all the properties that can be applied to each of the checkboxes. But if we go down to the bottom and we see input, let's see if we can find this here. Local name input, node value input. All the way down, these are events and properties. None of them have values. And in 2017, this has gotten really complicated, but there's the input type checkbox. Well, let's go and navigate to each one of these. And you notice how in the log, there's a 0, 1, a 2, and a 3. Well, the 0 is the first checkbox. The 1 is this one, and then the 2 is the football, and the 3rd is the basketball. So let's go ahead and log the first one. This is going to be hockey. So I'm saving and refreshing and hitting this. So there's hockey. Okay, that's neat. Well, the thing about checkboxes is they have a property, a checked property. So what I can do is log the checked. I'm saving, I'm refreshing, and I'm doing show sports. Now notice that says false. Let's go ahead and click select it as true, and then we can hit show sports again, and now it's true. Okay, so what's great about this is that we have a method of determining whether a checkbox is checked or not. This is great. So now at this point, I can say something like, this will be the longhand version so everyone understands it. So if checked is equal to true, then we can do something about hockey. So let's have a message here. We'll have var message equals you like, I'm going to add a space, and I'm going to add just that. And if checked is true, I'm going to add to that string, and I'm going to add hockey. Okay, so now I have message equals hockey. At the bottom of this, I can do document.get element by ID, and I'll grab the response, and I'll make the inner HTML equal to message. So now we kind of have this dialogue going between our form and our web page. So I can click hockey, and now it says you like hockey. So I'm going to add a break tag to this message from before, because it says select your favorite sports, and then I have the response before it. So I'm going to add a break tag right here. I hit refresh, and now I can do hockey, and there's you like hockey. Well, we can get even more dynamic coding on this. I could say something like, if 1 is equal to true, well, let's get the value of 1. So instead of going for baseball, I'm going to go with this. We're going to do dot value. That's the value property of the 0, 1, the second value. And I'm simply adding more to the message. So let's go ahead and hit refresh. We'll do hockey and baseball, and we'll hit show sports. And now look, I have hockey and baseball, which is kind of neat. This time I've done it dynamically. On top of that, I could do an actual loop through this. But what I really want you to learn from this video, honestly, is to access the checked values of these things. But anytime you see something with numbers, I could output those numbers. I could say something like for var equals I, or var I equals 0, as long as I is less than, and we'll do the length property of document.sportsform.sports, length, then I++, and all we're going to do is console.log the values of these. So right here, you see where it's a 1. I'm going to replace that with an I, because the I changes in every turn of the loop. So let's go ahead and hit refresh. Do hockey, baseball, football, and basketball. And now you see I've outputted every one of these. Okay? So I could say something like if document sports form sports I dot checked is equal to true, then I could have a condition like that where we only log the values that were checked. Okay, so now I hit refresh. We'll do a hard cache there, and we'll do hockey and baseball. Now I have hockey and baseball. And it's completely dynamic. In no way did I type any baseball or hockey or non-dynamic words in there. If I do football and basketball, there's football and basketball. Add baseball to it, I got baseball, football, and basketball. Add them all, and we've got them. So the main point about this, and I strongly recommend that you master this block of code. It's one of the more important blocks of code that I've ever shown you. But what I strongly recommend is that you understand that the I is a number, And that on each turn of the loop, it's based on the length of all the sports in the sports form in this document. This is one of those videos where you do not want to turn me off. You want to get this code. I'll attach it and run it. And pay close attention to what each value is. Every element in between the dots is vital when you want to learn this, okay? One of the biggest things you'll be asked to do professionally is to get values from form data, and checkboxes obviously are the most tricky. They demand that you have the same name field for groups. Notice how it's sports, 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 sports. Exactly, so this can be very complicated. I'm more than willing to have a Google Hangout or Skype session with you folks to really take you through this because it's very important. Anyway, if you have any questions, don't hesitate to email me.